A string of attacks and accusations are threatening to heighten a simmering proxy conflict between Iran and Israel. The latest claim comes from an Iraqi paramilitary group, one of many majority Shia groups in the region linked to Iran. They say Israeli drones targeted them over the weekend. Meanwhile, Hezbollah, the most prominent militia tied to Iran, is vowing to respond to Israeli actions in Lebanon and elsewhere. It says 2 Israeli drones crashed in Beirut over the weekend. The IDF has yet to comment on either set of incidents, but they are acknowledging airstrikes near the Syrian capital. Israel has released these images. They say it supports their side of the story, that the IDF launched a preemptive strike to stop a drone strike by Shia militia and, crucially, Iranian forces. Iran quickly denied that account. Well, let's bring in Sam Kiley, who is in Jerusalem, and our Ben Wiedemann in Beirut. Sam, to you first. Israel say they are acting defensively, but they are also, to some degree, leading the charge against Iran and its proxies in the region. That said, how much of Israel's recent activity is potentially political, with Netanyahu standing for re-election in just 3 weeks' time?
Well, I think, Christina, on a strategic level, it has long been the Israeli defense policy to be preemptive whenever it decides that it's under a potential threat, particularly when it comes to Iran. They are very anxious indeed to prevent Iran from developing substantial bases for their so-called proxies in Syria, such as they've had to deal with in southern Lebanon in the form of Hezbollah. And in that context, although the Israelis have not acknowledged, but merely Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has hinted that they have been behind successive airstrikes now in Iraq. This latest attack on the Iranian-backed militia in Anbar province, quite deep inside Iraq, could be seen in the context of preemptively making sure that Iranian-backed militias do not have access to or intent to use any kind of weapons that they may get from Iran against Israel. At the same time, tactically, this doesn't do the campaign of Benjamin Netanyahu to remain prime minister after the September 17 elections in this country any harm. He's trying to stitch together with gossamer threads some kind of a right-wing coalition with Avigdor Lieberman really having on the centre right, unusually for that figure since he's normally associated with a pretty hardline position, but he's trying to deliver to this to the Israeli electorate the tough guy image. So it doesn't do him any harm at all, Christina.
Yeah. All right, Sam, thanks for now. Let's move to Ben, who's in Beirut. And Ben, as we mentioned, the Hezbollah chief is vowing to retaliate for the drone attacks. Given that he's invoked the 2006 war with Israel in his comments, is this rhetoric being used to placate his base, or do you think there's a real risk of this now escalating into something more serious?
I don't think there's any question, Christina, that this is leading to perhaps something far more serious, keeping in mind that within the last 48 hours, Israeli warplanes or drones have struck targets in Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, and Gaza. That certainly amounts to a serious escalation, certainly on the part of the Israelis. As far as Lebanese reaction to this situation, I will point you to this newspaper, El Akhbar, which is sympathetic to Hezbollah. Here you have a picture of a Hezbollah fighter peering south into Israel, and the headline says, "Retribution is inevitable." And certainly the feeling here in the Lebanese capital is that the danger of things going out of control are more so than they have been literally since the 2006 war between Hezbollah and Israel. And there is a feeling among many I've spoken with here that perhaps Israel, frustrated with the perceived failure of the Trump administration's maximum pressure campaign on Iran, may be taking matters into its own hands, and that could be a very dangerous step for the rest of the Middle East. Christina?
All right, Ben Wiedemann there, live from Beirut. Thank you very much, Ben, and thanks also to Sam Kiley as well in Jerusalem.